Hello viewers, welcome to the weekend edition of National Focus. I am Tarnia Green. It's always a pleasure to have you join us. Among the major developments, no planned relocations for residents of the Rosa Valley as it relates to geothermal project. Regional fisheries ministers deliberate on the management of the region's flying fish, and the Ministry of Trade collaborate with OECS Secretariat to establish a system for customs and trading across borders. Stay with me as I bring you the details of these and other stories when National Focus returns.
Documentaries and in-depth discussions, community walkthroughs, and Yes We Care. See it all on GIS Channel 7.
Welcome back. Time now for the details of the news. Energy Minister Honorable Rayburn Blackmore says there are no planned relocations for Rosa Valley residents at this time as a result of the proposed geothermal energy project. The minister confirmed this during Thursday's sitting of Parliament at the House of Assembly.
At present, there are no plans to relocate anyone from the Rosa Valley. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Public Works, Energy and Ports, alongside the Lands and Service Division of the Ministry of Lands, Housing Settlement and Water Resource Management, is currently identifying all the landowners within the area of interest in the Loda area.
The minister explained that there has been limited impact on the lives of Rosa Valley residents thus far.
It should be noted that 2 of the 3 exploratory wells that are located in the Loda area were completed with minor inconvenience to residents, to include noise levels and lights at night during the drilling and testing activities, and delays experienced during the road and site access improvement and movement of the drilling rig and related equipment to drilling locations.
Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit has defended his administration's investment in LIAT. The Prime Minister, addressing Parliament on Thursday, stated that $3 million has been invested in the Caribbean airline company.
This administration has taken the decision to become a shareholder in the regional airline because we see LIAT as an important contributor to the efforts at improving and enhancing air access in Dominica. We strongly believe that this investment is in the best interest of the people of this country. This contribution will facilitate the acquisition of new aircrafts and is expected to create new opportunities for more visitors to come to our island, as well as to facilitate the movement of citizens to Dominica. And it's also, Madam Speaker, an investment that will help protect the investments that have been made by the government and indeed by investors in the tourism industry.
Meantime, Minister for Tourism, Honorable Ian Douglas, has voiced support for government's decision to invest in the company.
LIAT is responsible for bringing in at least 70% of our arrivals into Dominica, Mr. Speaker. I mean, how can we sit here and not support LIAT? Let LIAT fail? Let LIAT stop flying to Dominica? These are the statements of the opposition, Mr. Speaker. And these are not only detrimental statements to the people and against the people of Dominica, but to the very economy, Mr. Speaker. To the very root of the economy. Tourism today, Mr. Speaker, is the bedrock upon which the Dominican economy sits. We are generating $300 million into the economy, and LIAT is a contributor to that, Mr. Speaker. A major link with the region and the rest of the world, regionally and internationally, is LIAT. Yet we sit here and we listen to the members of the opposition saying to the people of Dominica that the investment of $3 million and more to come into LIAT coming from the Dominican National Petroleum Fund is a waste of investment. Then you must tell the people, members of the opposition, if not the investment in LIAT, then what? If not LIAT, then what?
In other news, work will commence soon on the Over Gutter Road in Marigot. Public Works Minister Honorable Rayburn Blackmore made the announcement during Thursday's sitting of Parliament. He was responding to concerns by Member of Parliament for the Marigot constituency, Honorable Edison James.
We recognize the need for routine intervention for keeping the Over Gutter Road in a motorable condition. For this reason, emergency repairs is planned to commence within the next 4 weeks, whilst the most substantive work is planned for a later stage during the 2013-2014 fiscal year after securing the required budgetary allocation.
The minister explained that his ministry is aware of the importance of the Over Gutter Road to residents of the community.
Based on the technical assessment carried out by the technical services of the Ministry of Public Works, Energy and Ports, approximately 700 meters or 2,297 feet of roadway from the Dam Rose Hill Junction to the intersection of this road at Res will require complete rehabilitation. Madam Speaker, I'm also aware of the potential use of this road as a diversion to the existing Marigot-Medvinol Airport and the main road in the event of emergency, and that, Madam Speaker, should be agreed by all. In the meantime, I wish to inform the honourable member for the Marigot constituency that the associated cost for the required repaired intervention for the Over Gutter Road is estimated at $1,019,646.40.
And Dominica continues to benefit from relations with international agencies. Prime Minister Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit told Parliament on Thursday that the United Nations Development Programme has provided funding to the Ministries of Culture and Social Services.
The sum of $54,000 was donated by the UNDP through the Ministry of Culture for the implementation of the Youth in Talk through Arts project. Budgetary provision was therefore made for this. The objectives of this initiative are to empower youth to participate in governance processes and to highlight areas affecting them through the performing arts. Madam Speaker, the allocation for the Ministry of Social Services and Community Development is $241,933. This sum represents funding received from the UNDP to facilitate the implementation of the National Gender Policy Project. This initiative seeks to secure for men and women alike the opportunities to maximize their potential as citizens, regardless of gender, and to promote equal participation in the national development process.
In more news, CARICOM energy ministers tackled the subject of regional energy head-on at the 41st special meeting of the Council for Trade and Economic Development, or COTED, in Port of Spain, Trinidad. The Energy Council meeting, chaired by Dominica's own Energy Minister, Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, took place at the Hyatt Regency Hotel on Friday, March 1st. The highlight of the meeting's agenda was the subject of the CARICOM energy policy. The officials specifically focused on the Caribbean Sustainable Energy Roadmap and Strategy. They aimed to set targets for renewable energy while creating short, medium, and long-term strategies for the region in the quest for sustainable energy. Also at the one-day meeting, the ministers discussed the process of geothermal pursuits in the Eastern Caribbean. According to a release from the CARICOM Secretariat, the other important item on the agenda of the Trade and Economic Development Council meeting was developing responses to high energy prices. Dominica's Energy Minister, Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, is expected to be back on the island by Monday. In other news, regional fisheries ministers have been deliberating on the management of the region's flying fish. Dominica's Fisheries Minister, Honorable Dr. Kenneth Daru, attended the Caribbean Ministers of Fisheries Council meeting in Trinidad last week. The meeting was convened by the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, the CRFM. The ministers review the urgent governance and management issues challenging the 7 Caribbean countries currently harvesting the flying fish.
The purpose of this meeting primarily was to discuss the whole management issue as it pertains to the flying fish. And as we are aware, the Caribbean forms an archipelago, a chain of islands, and marine resources such as flying fish, among others, of course, are what we call highly migratory species. And we have to collaborate in an effort to manage this resource properly, because whatever one country does that has an adverse effect on that particular species, of course, it's because of their migratory patterns, it is going to affect the fishing stocks of the other Caribbean countries. So, as I said, the meeting was to inform the Minister of Fisheries of the Caribbean, of the CARICOM community, as to the work done so far by the various groups. Of course, these groups have been relating to all the experts at UWE and all various other expert organizations as to a way forward in managing the flying fish as a migratory species and other species. In particular, issues to do with pollution, and of course climate change, global warming, because we know with global warming and warming of the sea, etc., that might affect breeding patterns and migratory patterns.
Guadeloupe and Martinique are important participants in the flying fish fishery in the Caribbean. Honorable Daru said the meeting emphasized the need for closer cooperation with France at all levels to ensure coordinated and concerted action for sustainable use, conservation and management of the flying fish resources and other shared fish stocks.
Also coming out of this meeting was another very important item on the agenda, and that is to do with our relation and the role that Guadeloupe, that the French overseas departments of like Martinique and Guadeloupe have to play in helping with the rest of the CARICOM member states in managing our fisheries resources, or marine resources to be more general. Because while Guadeloupe and Martinique remains overseas departments of France, which of course follows the guidelines of what they call a common fisheries policy of the EU, of the European Union, we are aware that the geographical and physically they form part of the Caribbean archipelago, and then we have to include them in our discussions. I mean, we can recall, and I'm sure it's no secret sometimes of the number of sometimes not so friendly encounters that our fishermen have with the French fishermen on the high seas, okay, on a regular basis. So I want to congratulate the Secretariat of CRFM on initiating this first discussion, where the technocrats of the Department of Martinique and Guadeloupe have been invited to this discussion. And then, of course, right now it's up to the political directorate, probably the heads of state, to further intervene to establish this type of cooperation where we think that we can work together.
The fisheries ministers also called upon countries to ensure that the consultations with stakeholders at the national level and the updating of the draft fisheries management plan for the flying fish are completed in a timely manner. The final plan is expected to be submitted to the subcommittee for endorsement at its next sitting in Barbados in May of 2013. In other news, the Ministry of Employment, Trade and Diaspora Affairs is collaborating with the OECS Secretariat and the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, to establish a system for customs and trading across borders. Discussions on the framework took place on Thursday. That workshop was attended by a cabinet-appointed National Trade Facilitation Task Force, along with local trade and shipping stakeholders. Trade Officer in the Ministry of Trade, Employment and Diaspora Affairs, Mathan Walter, listed a few of those measures.
That task force was appointed or approved. Its existence was approved by the Cabinet on the 27th of June 2012. And basically it is a WTO mandated committee, and the purpose of that committee is to coordinate the implementation of the WTO agreement on trade facilitation. It is also, another purpose is to bring together a group of experts in the field of movement of goods across borders. So DAIC, Tropical Shipping, LIAT, Manufacturers Association, Hucksters Association, Bureau of Standards, the Ministry of Trade, Finance, Legal Affairs, all those particular departments or associations are members of that task force. Some of them were present at that meeting, at that workshop.
The focus of the workshop was the revision of a list of 37 measures which govern export procedures in Dominica. The measures include the treatment of goods in transit, appeals procedures, information exchange, and the publication of applicable laws, among others.
A few examples of those measures are publication, information available through internet, notification, interval between publication and entry into force, an opportunity to comment on new and amended rules.
Mr. Walter explained exactly what one of those measures mean.
Where it concerns the information available through the internet, what they're asking is whether Dominica has put any measures in place to allow for government-related information, for example, information as it pertains to trade-related issues to be available on the internet to the public. So we are talking about information on trade facilitation. What have we done? Customs and Asikuda World, for example, would fall within that particular type of information. We are looking at, for example, information as it concerns the agreements that we are negotiating trade-related agreements such as the CARICOM-Canada ongoing negotiations that we're having right now. These are the kind of information that they're asking about, whether any member of the public can tap in and can be able to access that particular information.
Following the review of those measures, Mr. Irvin Phillip, a locally based Dominican consultant in charge of the framework establishment, will submit a confidential report to the World Trade Organization via the UNCTAD Secretariat. That report will detail the status of Dominica's cross-border trade mechanism with a view of identifying and addressing its weaknesses and strengths before implementation. Walter is satisfied that a productive discussion took place at the Trade Facilitation Framework meeting.
I would say that the goal that was set was achieved, and we were able to do that within a shorter period of time because there was active discussion. A lot of the members there were aware of what was to be discussed because the reading material was sent out before the workshop, so people were prepared. So when they came in, it was to discuss whatever areas that they had issues with. They were able to bring closure to those particular measures. So we didn't see it prudent to have gone on to another day.
This workshop is one of 8 being held in the Caribbean. And the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, formerly known as the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Response Agency, CIDERA, has been able to make significant strides in its efforts to embrace the principles and practices of comprehensive disaster management in the Caribbean region. Executive Director of CIDEMA, Jeremy Collymore, who ends his stint with the organization on March 31st this year, says the organization, through the CDM, has been able to reduce the risk and loss associated with natural and technological hazards and the effects of climate change to enhance regional sustainable development. Mr. Collymore, who joined the organization 21 years ago, is in Dominica on a special roundup visit. He spoke to GIS News in an exclusive interview on Thursday.
After 21 years of commitment to the agency, I think I had the opportunity to serve the region where we're able to translate an idea of a region integration mechanism around response coordination, which then was elaborated to risk management cooperation, and to transfer that from an idea into a tangible activity that is now in its adulthood. And I believe very strongly that this is a time for a new kind of shepherding.
Mr. Collymore says the organization, which was founded in 1991, has seen tremendous growth.
The first frontier was a collective government decision to establish such a mechanism. That was the first time this had been done globally. Secondly, we were able to create the infrastructure and the architecture for an intergovernmental response coordination mechanism, supported by a program of preparedness. We have moved from a situation in 1991 when we started, where there were only 4 national disaster offices that were part-time, to one now where we have a system including 18 that are all full-time and staffed, with disaster offices and emergency operations centers. That is a significant change since the early 1990s. We now have staff who are appropriately trained. We're also on the frontier of more engagement in the public sector entities, the National Disaster Management System beyond the disaster office, and involving the private sector and civil society.
The SIDEMA boss says the transition from a response and relief mode to a comprehensive approach to disaster management in 2009 can be described as another significant achievement under his watch.
We have been able to sell the message that disaster management is not about response. It is about managing some development issues that have the potential to expose our rapidly growing population and especially urban centers. And if nothing else has been achieved, that transformation from a response thinking to a development focus is, I think, a major achievement.
Mr. Collymore will vacate his position with SIDEMA as Executive Director on March 31st. He plans to do consultancy work during his retirement. And finally, this news time, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union and the Packet Clearinghouse, through representative consultant Bevel Wooding, has extended congratulations to the government of Dominica on the successful establishment of the country's first Internet Exchange Point, or IXP. The official launch, which took place at the Fortune Hotel on Wednesday, made Dominica the second country in the OECS and third in the English-speaking Caribbean to implement such a network device. Wooding took time to refute the claims of the doubting Thomases, who have difficulty in believing that a home-based Internet exchange point is necessary.
All traffic on the Internet at some point has to pass through a local Internet exchange point. The question is if it's going to be a near exchange point or a faraway exchange point. So in spite of the resistance, in spite of the entrenched status quo, the technical facts behind establishing a local Internet exchange point were irrefutable. The models for Internet traffic exchange in the region are, and I'll put it this way, undeniably inefficient, unnecessarily expensive, and ultimately inimical to national and regional development agendas. Now notice I'm not saying technical agendas, national and regional development agendas in every sphere. The simple fact is, if we are to seize the local opportunities presented by the global Internet, then there are certain fundamental domestic components that must be in place.
Wooding says the presence of a local IXP enhances the country's ability to build a robust domestic Internet ecosystem and economy.
It is a fact that the absence of a domestic exchange point compromises a country's ability to build a robust domestic Internet ecosystem and economy. Today, I can put this statement in the positive and say that it is also a fact that the presence of a domestic IXP enhances a country's ability to build a robust domestic Internet ecosystem and economy. And that's where we are right now, with the potential to build something that we could not have before. Is the IXP a magic bullet? Is the IXP some nirvana? No, it isn't. It's a foundation.
Wooding stated that with the establishment of the local IXP, Dominica now has a foundation for developing its domestic Internet economy, among other benefits. The activation of the IXP immediately improves local Internet resilience and also serves as a foundation for innovation and development of local Internet services and applications. And that's the English segment of the news. We now join McPherson St. Luce for the Creole highlights.
Allô tout le monde, bienvenue à cette nouvelle en Creole. Non, moi, c'est McPherson St. Luce. Premièrement, Premier ministre Honorable Roosevelt Skerritt, qui a fait parole qui n'y a pas de solution sans quick fix pour challenge économique pays comme Dominica expériencer. Selon Premier ministre Skerritt, l'économie régionale est supposée revisiter policy, manière de agir puis économie ailleurs. Et des pays CARICOM supposés prendre plus de temps pour discuter comment ils ont avancé l'économie ailleurs. Quand même, IMF déjà fait parole que l'économie pays régional est expectée pour avancer l'année là. Il a aussi fait parole que l'économie pays Latin America et puis Caraïbes peut avancer comme l'économie globale qu'a ramassé. En d'autres nouvelles, situation qui concerne les gens à l'âge en Dominique, qu'a recevoir attention. Plusieurs organisations moun à l'âge te assemblé plus bonheur semaine salam ou là yo tan on report on survey qui te conduit selon situation moun à l'âge en Dominique. Ancien officier promotion ministre santé North John Henry présenté report survey ça.
Autant moun ka di oui yo ka taper aider yo ka moun ka aider yo hard yes you care famille yo l'autre pays famille yo ici ben ni un des moun qui pas ni pièce moun pièce puis c'est pas tout programmes là qui là pas qu'à joindre tout le monde et pas qu'à joindre tout le monde et c'est ça nous pour comprendre et les différentes situations avec différents monde pour différentes raisons et puis ça qu'a fait nous les connaître comment nous ça travaille avec tous nous ensemble pour faire bagaille meilleur pour nous toutes puis monde qui en l'âge ni valait yo ni autant valait puis moins ni valait.
En d'autres nouvelles, ministère pour services sociaux, Honorable Gloria Shillingford, qui a fait parole que le ministre là bien parlé pour adopter le process licence pour mariage en Dominique. Le gouvernement Dominique déjà changé la loi pour faciliter l'autre pays pour l'avantage bagaille pays là qu'a offert selon la loi 900. Un bagaille qui change en loi là, c'est moun pas obligé de naturaliser dominicain, ça ou non-residency requirement avant de ça marier ici. Loi 900 là, ça facilite moun taper en licence en un jour. Amendment, loi ça c'est changement loi ça c'est pour positionner Dominique pour l'avantage destination la place qui n'est autant billion dollars à dingue. Développement 900 là, t'es discuté et puis stakeholders pendant une consultation semaine passée. Développement ça là a commencé le premier mois ça là. Finalement, compagnie NTRC branché puis 3 compagnies internet en Dominique, ça c'est Lime, Mapping et puis SAT pour établir Dominica's Internet Exchange Point IXP. Network ça là lancé officiellement pendant une cérémonie plus bonne semaine ça là. IXP c'est service au morceau équipement, ces compagnies là ça servent pour faire business entre network à yo sans écouter yo pièce l'argent. Executive Director NTRC Craig Nesty fait parole qu'initiative ça lancé un grand achievement pour la Dominique. IXP qui facilite ces compagnies là brancher et puis yon et l'autre en dit yoni pour brancher et puis compagnie internationale. Nesty aussi fait parole qui ça qui assiste des gouvernements et puis affaires et government. Nesty a aussi encouragé d'autres business pour brancher en bas système 900. Quand même, ministère Telecoms, Honorable Ambrose George, qui a bien supporté le développement 900, qu'on a l'autre achievement en libéralisation industrie Telecoms à Dominique. Honorable George a aussi créé à NTRC pour faciliter le programme pour bas mon plein information qui a concerné IXP. Messieurs, mesdames, ça c'est tout pour Nouvelle Creole pour à présent. Non, moi c'est McPherson St. Luce. Ni a bon weekend. Au revoir.
When we come back, we'll bring you the tip of the day.
The facts as they are, brought to you every day, only on GIS Channel 7.
Thanks for staying with us. Today we'll share with you a few tips on how to save electricity in the home. Turn off the water when you are brushing your teeth and take shorter showers. This will not only save water, but it will also save the electricity that it takes to pump and heat the water. Make use of daylight hours and do not turn on lights and lamps. Use one large light bulb instead of a few small ones. One 100-watt light bulb uses less energy and gives off more light than two 60-watt bulbs. Use fluorescent light bulbs because they use 75% less energy and last longer than incandescent light bulbs. Importantly, use light bulbs that are low in wattage in areas of your house where you don't need bright light. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. We welcome your suggestions and your comments. Please feel free to drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm or visit our website at news.gov.dm. On behalf of the entire news production team, I'm your presenter, Tarnia Green. Thank you so much for watching and have yourselves a wonderful weekend.